My name is Bethany. I am 27 years old, and I live with my sick mother in a small, old apartment on the edge of the city. Life has never been easy for us. My father died when I was a teenager, and since then, I have carried the weight of responsibility. Every morning, I leave early for my job at a small cafe, serving coffee and smiles to people who never learn my name. At night, I clean offices until my hands ache. I often come home past midnight and sit beside my mother's bed, watching her sleep and wondering if things will ever get better. One Friday evening, my friend invited me to a party. I almost said no, but she insisted. The house was enormous, bright with music and laughter. Everyone there looked elegant and confident, like they belonged to another world. I stood quietly near the corner, feeling invisible. Then I saw him, Mr. Ronald Harper. He was tall, well-dressed, and silent, but his eyes followed me through the room. When the party ended, rain poured heavily outside. Mr. Harper approached and asked, "Do you need a ride home?" I said yes, not knowing that this small answer would lead me into the most complicated chapter of my life. Mr. Ronald was unlike anyone I had ever known. He carried himself with calm power, the kind that made everyone listen when he spoke. After the night of the party, he began calling me. His voice was deep and gentle, always asking how my day was, whether my mother was feeling better. Soon, he invited me to dinner at elegant restaurants I had only seen in magazines. I felt nervous sitting across from him, surrounded by soft music and expensive food. He said little, but his eyes watched me closely, as if studying my every thought. One evening, he told me, "Bethany, you work too hard. You deserve a better life." Those words melted my tired heart. No one had ever said that to me before. He spoke of comfort, peace, and a life without struggle. "I can take care of you and your mother," he said. "You will never have to worry again." I knew it sounded too perfect, but I was exhausted, from work, from worry, from hope. I looked at him and nodded. That night, I accepted his offer. A week later, I left my tiny apartment and moved into his mansion. The house was grand, the rooms silent. I had wealth around me, but I didn't realize I had traded something greater, my freedom. Living with Mr. Ronald felt like living inside a beautiful prison. The mansion was enormous, filled with gold decorations, glass walls, and silence. I had everything a woman could want: clothes, jewelry, fine food, but I felt smaller every day. He had rules for everything. I could not ask about his work. I could not leave the house unless he said so. I could not talk to anyone about our life. When I asked why, he said, "You are here to make my life easier, Bethany. Not to ask questions." His voice was calm but sharp, like a knife hidden under silk. One morning, he handed me a white envelope. Inside was a contract. It said I was his companion. It said he would pay me a large amount every month. It said I must never speak of our arrangement. My hands shook as I signed it. I told myself it was for my mother. For her medicine. For survival. Days turned into weeks. Mr. Ronald was polite but distant. Sometimes he was kind, asking about my mother or bringing me flowers. Other times, he was silent and cold. I began to care for him in ways I could not explain. He was a mystery, one I wanted to understand. One afternoon, I entered his study to leave a letter on his desk. That was when I saw it, a framed photo of a beautiful woman. She was young, elegant, and smiling beside Mr. Ronald. My heart trembled. Who was she? That evening, I asked him softly, Mr. Ronald, who is the woman in your photo? His face changed instantly. His eyes grew dark. That's none of your concern, he said and locked the picture in a drawer. His tone made my skin crawl. Later that night, the old housekeeper, Mrs. Conway, stopped me in the hallway. She whispered, "Be careful, dear. Mr. Ronald has secrets. What you see isn't always the truth." I couldn't sleep. I wondered what she meant. A few weeks later, he called me into his office. His words were calm but strange. "Bethany, I need to marry you." My heart jumped. "Marry me?" I whispered. "Yes," he said, "but it's not for love. It's only for business. It will help my company. You will still live here, and I will still take care of you." I should have said no. But I said yes. That day, I didn't just marry a man. I married his secrets. And without knowing it, I became the stupid wife. After our paper marriage, nothing felt real anymore. I wore a white wedding dress, but it felt like wearing a costume for someone else's story. There were no guests, no flowers, no laughter. Only a quiet ceremony, a lawyer, and Mr. Ronald's cold voice saying, "Sign here." I smiled for the photos, but inside I was breaking. I had become his wife on paper, not a partner, just a name he could use. For a few weeks, life went on the same way. I followed his rules, stayed silent, and played the role of the obedient wife. Then one afternoon, I went to his office to bring him lunch. When I arrived, I heard shouting. A woman's voice echoed through the hallway. "You promised to marry me," she screamed. "You used me." Her name was Nancy. She looked at me with tears and anger. "You took everything from me," she cried before storming out. My hands went cold. That was the moment I understood, I was not the first. I was just another piece in his game. When I got home, I checked his phone while he was in the shower. My stomach turned when I saw the messages. There were many women. "Call me. I miss you. Last night was perfect." Every word felt like a knife cutting deeper. That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart was full of rage, shame, and something worse, the feeling of being used. I needed the truth. The next day, I met a private investigator. I gave him money, the same money Mr. Ronald had given me. I told him, "Find out who he really is." Weeks later, the investigator returned with files and papers. What I saw made my blood freeze. Mr. Ronald's wealth came from illegal deals, hidden companies, and stolen identities. He used women, rich widows, secretaries, even business partners, to hide his crimes. Then the investigator said something that changed everything. "Bethany, one of his biggest companies is in your name. You own it. Legally. He transferred it during the marriage for tax purposes. He cannot take it back." I sat there in silence. My hands trembled. Then slowly, I smiled. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection didn't look weak anymore. You are not stupid, I whispered. Not anymore. From that day, I became the woman he underestimated. I learned his business, his secrets, his power. In public, I smiled like the perfect wife. In private, I was preparing for war. The stupid wife was done being stupid. I was becoming dangerous. 1 year later, it was our wedding anniversary. The house looked perfect, like every other night, but inside I was calm in a way I had never been before. Mr. Ronald came home carrying a bouquet of red roses. Happy anniversary, Bethany, he said with a smile that no longer fooled me. You've been quiet lately. Is everything all right? I smiled back and answered softly, yes, I've learned a lot this year. He poured himself a drink, unaware that tonight would be different. I opened my bag and placed a set of documents on the table. These are divorce papers, I said. He froze. I know everything, I continued. About Nancy. About the other women. About your illegal businesses. And I know that the company you put in my name belongs to me now. His face turned red. You can't do this, he shouted. You're nothing without me. I looked straight into his eyes and said quietly, you gave me money, but I used it to learn. You thought I was your stupid wife, but I became smarter than you. That was your biggest mistake. He was silent. For the first time, he looked powerless. I turned and walked away from the mansion without taking a single thing, not the jewelry, not the designer clothes, not even the car keys. I didn't need them anymore. That night, as I stepped into the cold air, I felt lighter than ever before. The woman who once sold herself for survival was gone. I was free, strong, wise, and finally in control of my own life. I learned that sometimes pain is the price of awakening. For a long time, I believed that love meant giving up everything, my time, my freedom, even my dignity. But I was wrong. Love without respect is not love. It is control dressed as care. There was a time when I called myself stupid. I thought I had failed because I trusted too much. But now I see that every mistake, every heartbreak, taught me how to stand again. Being naive once does not make you weak. Staying silent does. Some people will try to use your kindness as a weapon. They will take your silence as permission. But once you open your eyes and see who they truly are, they lose all their power. That is the moment you take your life back. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy peace. Power can demand loyalty, but it can never create love. Now I live a quiet, honest life. My mother is healthy again. I work hard every day and manage the company that once belonged to him. I am no longer the stupid wife. I am a woman who learned her worth, and that lesson was worth everything I lost. If you enjoyed my story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more emotional English stories that will help you learn English through story and real-life lessons.